Sonic Project 06 Silver's any percent in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Looks like Silver and Blaze are ready. I hope you are too. Let's get started. So, Silver's any percent is a category where we are going to go through all 10 of Silver's stages in his campaign in any order that we want. I am going to be going in the list order from top to bottom, starting in his Crisis City and ending in Blaze's Wave Ocean. The second stipulation is that we have to go through these stages as fast as possible by any means necessary, and by any means we shall. That means we can use a new game plus file, which means that we can use Silver's S rank reward. That is the Sigil of Awakening, which you just saw me use right there in the form of ESP mode. ESP mode does a bunch of different things that we're going to be talking about through the entirety of Silver's story, but for right now, just know that it allows us to do really long teleport dashes to get us across, all the way across a bunch of space in the level. Moving on here, we are going to be switching to one of our two companions for this run, or amigos, as 06 likes to call them. This is Blaze. Now, being her only 3D appearance, really, she basically functions just like Sonic does. Interesting parallel there. She's going to be going through a lot more automation, and she's going to focus a lot more on Sonic-like gameplay. The move we're using right here is called the Fire Claw. It sends her forward for about a second in a dolphin diving-like motion, and it also doubles as her homing attack. It is the fastest way to move forward with her. But enough about Blaze as we switch back to Silver. There's just so much to talk about in the opening minutes of this guy's speedrun. It is absolutely bonkers. This section right here is really interesting in that it is the only time in the game where we are revisiting a section we were already in a stage. So if you don't know, kind of like Sonic Adventure 1, Project 06, and Sonic 06 function on a section system, where basically each stage has like an Act 1, an Act 2, an Act 3, and so forth. Silver's Crisis City is interesting, like I said, in the fact that we start in Section F, we go to Section B, and then we go back to a different part of Section F to finish off the stage. Pretty neat stuff. Yes, they wanted him to be a little bit different since he's the new guy.
This looks so beautiful.
Man, the new cutscene subtitles in the Project 06 Silver patch really make those cutscenes pop and feel like they were made by Sonic Team. That one, however, was not made by Sonic Team. That was made by Sonic Pox, with the Crisis City one made by ChaosX himself. He is the lead developer after all, so I guess it makes sense that he makes stuff in this game. Tropical Jungle, Silver's shortest stage. We're actually almost done here. Quick thing I want to talk about is a move we're about to use coming up right here. Is called the Grab All. What I'm going to do is use a Psycho Shock to stun all these enemies and then double tap RT. And what that does is that picks up everything in Silver's surrounding area, if you can pick it up. Obviously, enemies can only be picked up if they are stunned. And the reason to use it over just holding RT to pick up stuff with this Psychokinesis is we can pick up stuff that Silver isn't facing, which is really nice, and it's also in a larger radius. ESP mode enhances that move, but we'll talk about that a bit later when it becomes more relevant. Moving on into Silver's probably most infamous stage from the original game, Dusty Desert, but my personal favorite stage in Project 06. We're going to be opening with a new ability here. This is called the Psychic Knife, which is gotten by collecting one of Silver's upgrades, the Flame of Control. It is a really cool ability where we just hold B to charge up a knife, and then we press B to release it. Without ESP mode, we can throw up to 3 Psychic Knives before we run out of energy in our action gauge. Again, meter management, a very important thing in Silver's story. I guess that's the first time I said it. Maybe I said it before in another attempt, but that's just kind of how it goes when recording these things. A little bit of a mess up there, but that's okay. We have the power of random objects that we can jump off of. It's kind of like this is a platformer or something, to go ahead and get us switched over to Amy Rose. Amy's only appearance in the entirety of Project 06 at the moment, at least until the End of the World releases. And she is so freaking awesome. So what you just saw me use right there was the spinning hammer attack. It's an ability where we press B, kind of like how it works in Sonic Adventure, except she can actually move a decent amount while she's using said ability, and she gets dizzy after a while, but thankfully just letting go of the button removes the dizzy penalty. What you're seeing me use here as a main form of movement is her hammer jump. Her hammer jump is a lot more horizontal to complement her double jump that she also has from the original game here. No invisibility to be seen, not like it really made a whole bunch of sense anyway. I know she's a tarot card kind of gal, but we'll save that for a Sonic Pox idle animation. Definitely check it out on Twitter if you haven't seen it just yet. But that is all we are going to see of Amy, a fan favorite character in Project 06, done and over with for the rest of the story. Hopefully we'll get to play as her more, hopefully sometime soon, whether it's a custom stage or whether it's up until the end of the world release. But pretty awesome, just using a couple Psycho Shocks grab all there as well. The grab all, I didn't mention, was an upgrade from the original game. The item box that you just saw me grab there is a gauge up capsule. When we collect it, it fills our action gauge up to max and also fills our maturity meter up to max. I haven't talked about it yet, and real quick aside, the ball puzzle here works just like the billiard balls before. If we hold the X button to charge up our Psycho Smash, it's going to move the ball a lot farther. And we can also press RT to hold the ball in place with our Psychokinesis, which is really nice if things get a little unruly. Made by the fact that this hallway has been made a little bit easier in terms of getting the ball actually down, and the ball puzzle is really no issue at all. Almost dying there, but that's okay as the ball sinks into the toilet and we can continue on with our speed run here. So the maturity meter is that red bar below the action gauge that you will be seeing the next time we play as Silver. That governs how long we are able to activate ESP mode for. All the enemies in this game drop yellow or blue energy cores. And we need at least 3 of those energy cores in order to activate ESP mode. However, we are able to activate ESP mode right away, or we can wait until we collect 10 energy cores to have it at the maximum duration. Now, this is interesting, because we can either activate it when we only have 3 energy cores to use ESP mode for a very short duration, or we can wait all the way up until it's at 10 energy cores to have it for a much longer time. We cannot extend its duration once we activate ESP mode, so it's really cool that we're able to kind of route out and figure out how to use this really awesome ability to its fullest effect, sometimes activating it multiple times in a level 2. Which we have seen, which we saw in Dusty Desert, actually, but we did switch to Amy. There are going to be some times where we are Silver, we run out of ESP, and then we activate ESP again. It's going to be pretty sweet. Speaking of Silver, here we are. The last ability, or the last upgrade, I should say, that's exclusive to Project 06 that I haven't talked about yet is Silver's Lotus of Resilience. The Lotus of Resilience allows us to do the spin jump, which subsequently we can do the Badnik bounce, because every character, other than a certain annihilating robot in a different story, can do the Badnik bounce, which is really, really nice. Especially that Silver's able to do that. The Badnik bounce actually affects his story the most. But it also extends our teleport dash to use the entire action gauge. And if we collect energy cores while we're teleport dashing, we can extend our teleport dash. We can also use the speed and momentum of it to get some pretty cool slope jumps, just like we did right there to get to the end of White Acropolis really fast. I know I talked over Blaze, but Blaze gets her own stage, and we're going to be seeing her one more time in this story as well. So there's plenty of time to talk about her different abilities. We are mainly focused on Silver, because wow, we have a lot to get through. So, another thing I want to mention with the gauge up capsules, which I didn't mention before, is it also fills our maturity meter up to full as well, which we're going to take advantage of right here. A sneaky little gauge up capsule right at the beginning of Silver's Radical Train. And we get to use ESP mode's 35% discount on our maturity meter, on our action gauge, in order to fly all the way over to that conveyor belt. Do a quick Badnik bounce to hop over this railing and land right on the rail. Yes, Silver can actually grind. He is not able to grind on these rails. Whoopsie daisy. He's not actually able to grind on these rails in the original game because they weren't programmed in his particular Radical Train to do so, but he could do it in multiplayer, so I like that we can actually grind on them here in Project 06. Using the Psychic Knife to destroy this barrier real quickly, and we're just going to teleport dash to the end of Radical Train. Love that secret gauge up capsule at the beginning. It's a shortcut that you are only able to use if you have the Sigil of Awakening, which I think is really neat, and I hope that throughout the rest of Project 06, there will be more secret rewards. Or I guess sort of secret shortcuts that we can use when we have the 100% reward for the Hedgehog. Now we're moving into the big guns here. The first 5 stages in Silver's story are basically the warm-up, and then the next 3 are the gauntlets, starting with Aquatic Base here. Gonna use a bit of manipulation of the terrain there to keep Silver on the ground, because we want to have full action gauge when we switch over to Shadow. At the time of this video, I haven't made Shadow's commentary run yet, but I'm going to save his explanations here, because as quickly as we see Shadow, it is over. We want that full gauge so that we can activate Chaos Boost and kill those enemies really quickly. Because a quirk about all the action gauges other than Tails' action gauge in this game is that they only fill up after a short delay after you hit the ground. That way you can't like manipulate it and get like infinite flight or stuff like that for characters that use it. Tails is a little bit different where he can refill it while jumping, but nah, it's whatever. We used the Psychic Knife right there to hit that switch, open that door, and used ESP mode to do a very tight teleport dash there. And what I was talking about earlier, we are going to defeat these enemies, and we filled up our maturity meter just enough to activate ESP mode, and then we ran out of ESP mode, and then re-got a bunch of energy cores from those golems in order to use ESP mode again in this section here. This is a very tight platforming section, so I think I'm going to be a little bit quiet for it. Hey, there we go. Using that 35% discount on our action gauge to the fullest. If 35% is a little bit hard to visualize, I recommend visualizing it with as if it were just 1/3 less. Because if you think you can make it with 1/3 less action gauge, you can absolutely make it with 35% less action gauge. Math is fun. It's my $24,000 major to work, ladies and gentlemen. Using a bit of the grab all there as we enter section 2 to make quick work of those enemies. Gonna jump over that. Taking the damage there doesn't really matter. Hit that rune, and then we're gonna activate ESP mode on top of the pillar here, because another thing ESP mode does is allows us to do this big chaos blast type thing. I like to call it sort of like a digital blast or an ESP blast, since it's called ESP mode. But it's pretty neat and allows us to activate that pull and defeat those enemies that are a little bit farther away. Because that's the gimmick of Aquatic Base, are these magnetic pulls that a bunch of big enemy formations that are around. Getting this cool camera volume here, some 3D in a 3D game, who would have guessed? Gonna use the Psychic Knife here to defeat these enemies really quick down the hallway, and then one big ESP blast at the very end to defeat those guys. Very neat, and we kind of get a close-up of ESP mode Silver here. Bunch of particle effects, because that is what Chaos loves the most, and I can't say I don't love them. They look pretty stinking cool. I actually quite like how ESP mode is very subtle compared to maybe the more extravagant 100% rewards that the other Hedgehogs have as we hop into Kingdom Valley.
Sonic, we don't have time. Let's get to Elise right away. Leave it to me.
Time for Silver and Sonic to team up. Well, I mean just Silver, because Sonic just vanishes after that cutscene somehow. Gonna do a Badnik bounce into that fire crate to defeat those 3 enemies, and then I sent a Psychic Shot, which is the base form of the Psychic Knife. You can use it whether or not you have the Flame of Control as an upgrade. And the Psychic Shot goes quite a bit farther than the Psychic Knife. However, it only stuns enemies. That ability in itself is boosted via ESP mode, just like all of the other abilities. It's got that 35% discount on the action gauge, but also, if enemies are close enough and you use a Psychic Shot, it actually has a small little blast that I believe stuns the enemies as well. We don't use it in the speedrun, so I'm not entirely sure. Gonna go ahead and grab this gauge up capsule, refill our action gauge. I'm gonna Psychic Knife through the door there, which is gonna kill some enemies and get us some energy cores that are going to lengthen our teleport dash to get all the way over to that little platform there in what I like to call the moat section of Kingdom Valley. Gonna go ahead and jump off the stairs, do a teleport dash right into the Eagle's Talons as it carries us over into Section 2. Getting Section 2 here, we're gonna run out of ESP mode. I'm gonna charge up a Psychic Knife, try to hit these enemies, hit one of them, that's fine. I'm gonna swing around the pole this way so that the enemies are in the proper position and just get rid of them. The fastest way to defeat enemies with Silver is to quickly pick them up and put them down, as I'm sure you've seen throughout this speedrun here. There's so many different ways to defeat stuff. Now, Sonic, I have already done a commentary speedrun on patch version 1.3. Let me know if you guys would like to see an updated one for version 1.4. I'm not a big fan of repeating content, but if you're curious as to what I'm doing here, this is called Castle Skip, a variation that's a little bit different than what's in Sonic's story, where we use the purple gem instead of the rainbow gem because we don't have 50 rings, and we're just gonna send Sonic into the pit because the character switch triggers are enormous. Using a quick Psychic Knife there to defeat those 3 enemies, get us just barely enough for ESP mode as we fly over to the towers to finish off Silver's Kingdom Valley. Gonna use a Psychic Shot. As we saw in Section 1, they do destroy the towers, so we're gonna use 2 of those. And then that tower defeated that enemy, which is going to give us just enough maturity meter to activate ESP mode one more time at the end. Because unlike Sonic's Kingdom Valley, or most of the stages in PO6, this stage finishes when we defeat all the enemies in this little section here, which are spaced out just nicely enough for one big ESP blast to destroy them. Don't worry, if you're a fan of ESP mode, we have not talked about all of the things that it does, and we are going to be seeing a few more of its nuances here as we head into Silver's final full-length stage of Flame Core. But we are not going to be beginning the stage as Silver. We get to begin the stage with Blaze instead. This is such a cool addition. I really like in Sonic's story in Project 06 as well as Silver's story here that we actually get some like physical interaction with the other characters that are going through their ultimate stages here, or their final stages, I suppose. We're gonna get a slope jump off of this item capsule, which is a little bit goofy, but also pretty fun here. The slope jumps in Project 06 are really, really awesome. Gonna do a Badnik bounce all the way up to the spring, avoids that enemy gauntlet. And now for the most awkward fight in the game, as I repeatedly Psycho Shock and defeat these enemies, we're gonna send a knife over there to defeat that bird. We're gonna throw this one at this guy, do a Psychic Shot, and then break that lizard as well. Like I said before, the Psychic Shot, when it hits an enemy, it just stuns them. When an enemy is stunned and you hit them again with the Psychic Shot, it will do 1 point of damage unless you are in ESP mode, like I talked about before. Setting up a double Badnik bounce here as it gives us just enough height to teleport over to there. Put my fingers in a bit of a pretzel in order to do that, but hey, we got it, which is cool. Grabs us this invincibility capsule, which allows us to run on this lava. Because this is technically considered ground, since we're not taking damage, our action gauge is going to fill up, and we can do some teleport dashes to increase our speed through that section and do one more Badnik bounce right as that invincibility ends, and then activate ESP mode. The story is insane with how much stuff is going on here. I'm gonna go ahead and stand on top of this box, and then we are going to use another quirk of ESP mode. ESP mode automatically stuns enemies that are nearby Silver. Additionally, the Psycho Smash, which is his X button action, when what we use to throw objects we are holding, also kills any stunned enemy in one hit while you're in ESP mode. It's pretty sweet. As we finish off Section 1 of Flame Core here, almost done with Silver. He has such a quick story, it's pretty dang sweet. As we hop down into the depths of the cavern of Flame Core here. Or I guess the volcano, but the song title is called The Cavern. Take a bit of a pot shot from that bird, that's okay. We live to fight another day as we head through here. Just some, a little bit of platforming here, and using the fact that when we teleport dash into the ground, we keep some of the speed of that teleport dash. So we go a little bit quick on those platforms, because the platforms are oscillating just a little bit, whether if they're floating or whether they are just in the lava itself. So we just have the tiniest of slope jumps, or not really slope jumps, but slopes to teleport dash into to keep that speed. Getting a slope jump off of another item box yet again, and just one more time as we go up here and say hi to our friendly Titan, Mr. Bill, as he takes up the entire screen while we wait for this door to open. Gonna do a teleport dash over here. We already got enough maturity meter for ESP mode as we hit this rune, and then we're going to activate it while the door is opening, save a little bit of activation time. Teleport dash over here, and then we want to avoid the giant shock waves coming from the quite literal Flame Core here. Kind of fun. It's what this object is called in the files, is the Flame Core. So if you're ever wondering what the stage is named after, it's this thing. Gonna go ahead and hit it on the top and get this cool little cutscene.
Nice job.
Now all I have to do is take him down.
Yep. Good job, Silver. You do that, but we'll save that for the next release. We're not quite ready for the awesomeness that is going to be the boss fights in PO6 just yet. Instead of doing that, we're going to take a nice little vacation as we head into Blaze's Wave Ocean. Now, we wanted to include all of the extra stages in PO6's in the PO6 any percent speedruns because it's Project 06. It's a really fun game, so why not play as much of the game as possible? But also the main reason is because Blaze's Wave Ocean is actually fun. So we're going to talk a lot more about Blaze here. I didn't get to cover everything I wanted to with ESP mode, so maybe if I run out of stuff to talk about, we'll talk about it a little bit here, but I covered all of the main stuff. Again, like I talked about before, we're going to be using the Fire Claw here. It's our fastest form of movement. Fight the camera a bit there to skip that loop section. And then what we're going to do is use her double jump to cancel the Fire Claw and get a bunch of height and speed just like this. This is a new addition in the Silver Release patch, and it's so good. It makes Blaze incredibly fun, and we're going to be seeing a lot of cool stuff as we get near the end of her story there. Like how I said, the Fire Claw only lasts about a second. We can press the X button again to reactivate it, and if you activate it at the right time, like if you press the X button at the right time, you don't lose any of the speed, which is pretty sweet. One more thing I want to talk about with ESP mode, since it doesn't make Silver invincible, or I should say, while it doesn't make Silver invincible, it actually reflects all the projectiles from the enemies, as long as it's like a physical or a manifested projectile, if that makes sense. Using the double jump, I guess more of a triple jump here, and the Fire Claw to just soar over this level design here. Taking this quick shortcut, this is brand new level design for Project 06. If we were in Retail 06, Blaze's Wave Ocean would be done by now. We're going to go ahead and hug this wall because it gives us an extra bit of height from a slope jump and complete the story right there. And I believe a 21:11, but hey, I'll take a 21:13 on that real time. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. It's really fun to do these commentary runs when I don't mess up like I didn't on this one. So I really hope that this encourages you to start speedrunning PO6 yourself. If you want to, I have a link down below to the speedrunning Discord. If you would like to do that, I also have a link down below to the download for Sonic Project 06 as well if you want to play it for yourself. Thank you all so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.